Hello there. Welcome to my campfire. My name is Seraphine, the Midnight Bard, and I travel from place to place, seeking the strange, the bizarre, and the unexplained. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People will often find the path of least harm when faced with difficult choices. But what happens when the only paths presented to us result in tragedy either way? In such cases, one can either choose to embrace their fate and lean into whatever happens, or one could choose to turn away from either path, sparing themselves and others by making no choice at all. Life is not so simple, however, and one who has leaned too far into the darkness might not have the option of escape, no matter which way they choose to run. Long ago, a lone cowboy found himself running, hoping to escape the darkness within. With a song and a prayer, he found himself at the mercy of his dear Lord. The cowboy stepped off his horse and wiped his neck and face with his red handkerchief. Head to the Mojave. No way I'm crossing this in the day. I didn't run to die in the desert, he said to himself, looking about. He shoved his handkerchief back into his black pants pocket and took off his worn light tan duster and set up camp for the day under a small tree on the edge of the desert. It wasn't much cooler than in the light, but at least he would not fry in the sun while sleeping and waiting for it to go down. A white-tailed deer was watching him when he was finished. The cowboy eyed it for a second before shaking his head. "Your meat ain't worth the trouble right now," he said to the deer, who bounded off at the sound of his voice. "Heh," he said with a smirk. He finished setting up camp, which consisted of tying his horse to the tree and feeding it and putting down a bedroll in the shade. He used his bowie knife to open a can of beans and eat it cold before lying down. He looked at his horse, a Spanish Mustang mare named simply Darlin. "Well, Darlin, you fed enough?" The mare's ear twitched and she snorted. "I'll take that as a yes. Well, I'm gonna get some shut-eye before tonight then. Night, Darlin." The horse seemed to respond by snorting again, and the cowboy closed his eyes. His sleep, however, was troubled. Places and people from his past haunted him, and always a doe was there either watching him or guiding him to the next event. He awoke in a cold sweat with the feeling of being watched. Looking about and seeing nothing, and twilight starting to end, he set about building a fire and making a cup of coffee before heading out. He gathered a few tumbleweeds, and using a single piece of firewood, lit a fire using a flint and his knife. He wrapped some coffee in some rolling paper and dropped it into his tin cup he filled up with some water and sat it just at the edge of the fire and waited for it to boil. He took out his guitar and began to play and lazily sing while waiting. Under the sky, desert winds blow, tumbleweeds wander, under moon glow. I hope that the desert has no memory. I hope I can walk in dirty and walk out clean. the devil behind me, right on my heels. I need to ignore him and make no deals. Desert wind keeps blowing as the miles keep passing by. And I just keep on riding. Keep my spirits high. The cowboy stopped suddenly at the sound of humming and footsteps, and to his surprise, a young native woman stepped out from the shadows wearing long furs over her clothes. "Hold up there, miss. Who are you?" The woman simply smiled softly and brushed her long black hair behind her left ear as she kept approaching. "You know, there's something about you that's familiar. I know you from somewhere, miss?"
No.
She replied simply. "Uh-huh. Well, can I help you, miss? Ain't exactly safe for a woman to be wandering around the desert at night by herself." She giggled a little.
No. I just heard you singing, and it drew me to you. You have a wonderful voice,
she said as she sat next to the cowboy and leaned against him. "Well, thank you, ma'am," he said nervously. "You're a friendly one, ain't you?"
Yes, and I'm also cold. Warm me?
She said with huge doe eyes. "Well, I can't exactly refuse a lady in distress, especially one that gives me a look just like my... Never mind."
There is more than one way to keep warm, you know,
the young woman said, tracing her hand down his chest. "Oh, you're very friendly, I see," he said as the woman inhaled deeply from his neck, trailing her head up and going in for the kiss, much like a predator toys with its prey. "Okay, I get it, he said, taking off his shirt and laying on his back. The woman leaned forward, pressing her breast into the cowboy's face. He felt her shift, getting on top of him and shifting into position. Then the world seemed, for a time, to lessen. It was real and was not. He was only vaguely aware of what was happening as time seemed to slow, yet remained the same while they were together. The only constant was her face, always with a knowing smile. Every time his senses threatened to fade, to give out, she brought him back, snapped him to her, and her ever-present, knowing smile. Even at the end, when he was snapped back to his senses suddenly. Then it dawned on him who she looked like. It can't be. Sweetie? The native woman's face turned from a knowing smile to a wicked grin as she spoke.
No, I am not your daughter. I do come on her and your wife's behalf, however.
I don't know what you think you know, or what they told you, but I never touched my little girl, he shot back angrily.
Oh, I know. But I know you wanted to. And I know of all the times you cheated on your wife to get the urge out of you, and of your abandoning them,
she said coldly. I did that because I couldn't get rid of the thoughts. The urge. It was for their own good. He tried to get up but found himself too weak. What did you do to me?
I didn't do anything but give you the time of your life. The kind of time men dream of. I didn't even have to use magic. And your family died because of it. They slowly starved and suffered. You killed them with your unnatural lust, she said fiercely. You might escape mortal justice, but you will not escape natural justice. Spirit justice. She undid the rest of her clothes and let them fall to the ground, naked now in flesh and purpose. The cowboy gasped at his lover. Her lower half was that of a deer. In shock, he barely managed to gasp out, "What?" before the deer woman raised her leg above his head and brought it down on his nose, breaking it, her hoof causing a severe cut. He gurgled and tried to protect himself,
but her hooves fell like rain upon his face and body, leaving him unrecognizable as even having been human. The deer woman then wiped her hooves with his bedroll, put her clothes and furs back on, unsaddled and set his horse free, put out his fire, drank his coffee, and with a satisfied smile, turned back into a deer and bounded into the desert. Thank you for tuning in to this week's story, Campfire Gang. Remember to leave a like and hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you are enjoying my content and would like to help support the channel, please check out my Patreon link in the description, like these honorary bards. Also, be sure to check out the author's links in the description to see more of their work, or to contact them and tell them how much you enjoyed their story. Be safe out there, friends. I look forward to meeting you again by the light of the campfire.